Never seen such a perverted student. This little boy always stares at his teacher in class. He can't take his eyes off of her. He would ride his bike like crazy after class, just to be at the teacher's passing place in advance, to see her. Not only that, he climbed up the teacher's window in the middle of the night, to watch her every move. The reason he was so perverted, because this teacher is the most beautiful woman in town. How beautiful is she? All men would see her, and their eyes would glaze over. He could kiss her hand and brag about it for a whole year. The boy John was led by his friends. John was led by his friends to fall deeply in love with his teacher, Malena. Every minute of every day, he was forced to think of her, to take a childish way peeping. This makes him the only witness to the twisted fate of Malena. Malena's beauty, she became the talk of Sicily. Everywhere she went, she was talked about. Men coveted her beauty. Women were jealous of her looks. They were all convinced this lonely, beautiful woman must have gone on a date with her lover. But only John, who was always following her, knew she was there to take care of her deaf father. In the dead of night, John sneaks out of the house to Malena's house, climbing up a tree to spy on her every move. Her husband had gone to the front. John saw Malena with her husband's picture in her eyes, in tears. Not only is she not what people say she is, she was a noble woman devoted to her husband. But war is always associated with death. Soon, the news came from the front. Nino, her husband, had been killed on the front line. Malena was devastated. She cried alone in her room, holding Nino's picture. Without the presence of her husband, the townspeople began to act with impunity. She became the talk of the town. Some said she was having an affair with a dentist. Some said she was fooling around with some boss. Hearing that someone had defiled his goddess, John retaliated one by one. But that didn't change the way everyone saw her. Men felt they had a chance, whether married or single. They came to Malena's door and lined up. Someone wrote a letter anonymously to Malena's father. Someone wrote a letter to Malena's father anonymously, saying that Malena was having an affair with all the men in town. The father was so angry that he cut off all contact with Malena. But Malena, who lives alone, needs support. At night, John finds out about Malena's affair with the captain. As the captain leaves, he runs into the dentist, who has a heart of gold. They get into a fight. The dentist's wife wants to sue Malena. The story spreads throughout the town. People were thinking all sorts of nasty things about her, but she just wanted to find a partner to live with. To protect her reputation, she got a lawyer to defend her. The captain couldn't stand the pressure. He denied being with Malena. The dentist is also cowed by his wife's strength. After the bald head's impassioned speech, Malena won the case, but she couldn't afford to pay the high legal fees of Hitoshi, so the long-planned bald man insulted her. War breaks out. People are displaced. Malena gets together with the lawyer to survive, but the lawyer is a total mama's boy. When his mother finds out about this, she is furious. The lawyer has no choice but to leave Malena. The Nazis attacked. They take over Sicily. Malena's father is blown up. Her last hope was destroyed. The townspeople would not offer her a job. The vendors won't sell her anything. In order to survive, she chose to sacrifice her body in exchange for a small ration of food, but this did not sustain her for long, so she changed her face. She appeared in front of the public in a new guise. This act succeeded in attracting the Nazi warlords. The attitude of the people towards her changed 180 degrees. Long war was over. The Nazis have come to their end. While people cheered their escape from fascist rule, they thought of Malena, who had traded with the Germans. The women of the town rose up to criticize. They dragged Malena by her hair. In broad daylight, they were violent. They beat up this woman, the woman who once haunted her lover's dreams, while the men who had watched her stood by and watched. Her hair was shaved off. Her body is naked and exposed to the world. What little dignity she had left was gone in an instant. She was bruised. The corners of her mouth were bleeding. Struggling to stand up, she screams as if from the depths of her soul. She doesn't understand why those whom she had never hurt, forced to rewrite her destiny again and again. She finally left Sicily with a sense of disbelief and pain. Her departure brought peace to the town. The people were content to enjoy the peace and tranquility that Malena's husband and others, the peace and tranquility that Marlena's husband and others had given their lives for. One day, the fallen Captain Nino suddenly returned. He returned to Sicily with his one arm in tow. It turned out that he was not dead. He was only seriously wounded. Nino looked around for his lover, but everyone pretended to conceal the truth. They hid everything they had done to Malena. Their speeches were immediately revived, and mixed with hypocritical sympathy. John finally found the courage, told Nino the truth about all this, and told Nino Malena still loved him. Nino, with trust and love for his wife, he set out on a journey to find her. He wanted to bring his wife back, to regain his wife's dignity. A year later, he finally came back with his wife. They raised their chests, they raised their heads to meet the eyes of the people. Marlena's heart was in her mouth, with a hint of weakness in her eyes, but as noble as ever. At the grocery store, the women who used to bully her finally saw Malena is getting old. She had wrinkles too, she was fat too, so the women who had been so angry suddenly accepted the ordinary Malena in front of them. They took the initiative to greet her. They gave her clothes and food.
Buongiorno signora Scordia!
John also sent his best wishes to Malena at the end. People have a complicated attitude to beauty. They love the beautiful and are ready to destroy it. Jealousy drove Malena into the abyss. But when Malena, whose beauty had been destroyed, when she came back to town, these people could pretend that nothing had happened. They show their friendship to Malena with generosity. The film opens with a scene like this. A group of teenagers focus the sunlight with a magnifying glass and roast an ant to death. Then they pray to the ant's corpse and repent. Isn't this a true reflection of the way Malena is treated by everyone? The attention, the slander, the attempts, the jealousy, it was all a beam of sunlight, and finally baked Malena to death. Beauty is not a sin. It is the heart